Hello you lovely lot and welcome to another video. My name's Katie and today we're gonna go beyond the box. Specifically, the Scrawlrbox from June. Of course, it goes without saying, if you enjoy these kinds of videos and you haven't subscribed already, why not hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss out on any more videos like this one. I believe that the June box for quite a few people presented quite a bit of a challenge, so when I do these beyond the box videos it kind of just helps with the creative process in a sense, so you can get the most out of your materials. Anyway, let's get that shameless plug out of the way with and crack on with what's going on now. I quite enjoyed the theme for the box, and if you've seen the original video there, you'll know that I went with a Blade Runner theme. I felt that drawing a picture of Rachel from Blade Runner kind of fit in with the Scrawlrbox prompt Electric Dreams really well, and I wanted to draw another character out of that film. I obviously haven't rewatched it from when I mentioned in the video, and it actually came to me the other day. The last time I watched it was when you had to send off for a DVD from Netflix and they would post it to you. So that is how long ago it has been since I watched the first one. So I think I might have to book a slot over a weekend sometime and sit down and enjoy that film. Especially after looking everywhere for pictures of the characters, it's made me have an itch that I need to scratch. So can you guys relate to that as well? So I went this time with the character Pris, I think that's how you say it, and I thought I would do her with quite a dynamic pose. So I didn't actually use a photo reference as such, I kind of made up the pose using a pose generator app on my iPad and then referred to that for the shape. I remember her being quite acrobatic and flexible, and I thought a pose where she just looks like she's landed from a backflip and she's about to lunge forward would be very appropriate there. Again, splitting the colours into tonal variations rather than actually concentrating on the colours themselves really helped me to create a balanced picture here. For the background on Rachel's picture I used the green, whereas this time round I went for the pink because it was just a lot deeper and darker and I wanted Pris to really be jumping out. I thought the peachy colour that we got was still perfect for the mid-tone, and just adding a slight variation of tonal difference there, I used the green. It's really weird, but when I scrunch my eyes up, as you do to try and make out tonal differences, the green and the peach colour do actually sort of sit on the same level of, well, tone, but because they're such different colours and there's a huge difference between the areas where I've added the green next to the peach, I still think it works, so we're good with that. Obviously, using that fluorescent yellow pen for her hair and the highlights just goes without saying really, and that's partly why I wanted to draw her specifically too. Now, like I mentioned in the previous video, paint markers can be tricky little things to work with sometimes, especially on paper. It's not so much that it shreds the paper up, it's more like the paint is drying on the nib and you just get these crusty little semi-dry bits which come off as you're making your marks on the paper. Personally, I wouldn't worry about that too much to begin with. Do your first layer, let it dry, you can kind of wipe off those crusty bits, it's not really going to lift up much paper as long as you're gentle with it. And then again, ensuring it's still dry, and you'll know when you've tried to remove them crusty bits. But make sure it's dry, I can't emphasise that enough. And then go over it in a second coat, and again, you might still get some crusty bits of paint, just remove them, and you should have a relatively blocked out area. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And I can't emphasise enough just how important it is to make sure between layers that your markers are dry, because when it came to using the liner pen that came with the box, you do not want a slight bit of undried paint getting on that nib, otherwise you can kiss goodbye to your lovely pen, it's going to kill it pretty much, it's just going to block it up and be pretty useless. Anyway, whilst I'm talking about the liner pens, it's time to start adding some details on the picture, and I again wanted to keep quite a dynamic piece here, so I decided to have a bit of a burst from the background. I didn't use it from the centre point, I actually had it off centre, again just to add a bit of action in there, which I think matched up with her pose really well. You'll see that I used a ruler and a protractor to try and make sure that my lines were consistent and straight, and just by drawing out a few key ones I free-handed the rest of them inside. I didn't actually use the ruler itself to draw those lines using that pen, I did pencil them out first, purely because in my experience every time I use a ruler and a fine pen or a ballpoint pen or any pen for example, I always seem to smudge the line and I always seem to transfer some of the ink onto the ruler itself, which transfers further onto areas I don't want that. So personally for me, I'll pencil it out and freehand it, and to get the lines as straight as possible, it really just is down to practice and it becomes muscle memory in the end, and you do get better at it. To create more of an impact as well, I outlined the outside of Pris and then started thickening the edges, but making sure I was going in the direction of the background lines rather than extending out the outline there. For me, this just makes it feel a little bit more animated on the page, a little bit more impactful, and that's what I wanted to go with here. Again, what I've done in the background suits the pose, and in a way you could say it adds a little bit of drama. I mean, if there was lights and I guess the room was slightly smoky for example, you would see columns of light bursting behind where her body would be. I think that makes sense to me, I hope it does to you. Now it's time to start adding the line details to her body and her leotard that she's wearing. Now I thought it was quite important to do that because it's from her final scene in the film and she's wearing that nude coloured leotard, and without putting those line details on for where the clothing are, you kind of could assume she's not wearing any at all, so I definitely needed to do that. I also wanted to continue on adding texture to it. On the Rachel picture I did actually keep it relatively simple and just went to town on the line work for her hair. Now obviously on this one I'm not going to be able to do that because the pen's too thick for the size of the drawing I've done there, so I thought, well, let's just add a few of the details on the hair. I mean, it's pretty fluffy in this scene anyway, so there's no need to draw every strand in there. And once I'd added the form to the rest of her figure there, I thought, you know what, I really wanted to do this on the last picture but it would have spoilt it, but this was perfect for adding some of those cross-hatching details in there. Just by adding those deep tonal differences, it really does create some drama and a little bit of impact there. And you'll see once I start adding them in there, especially underneath her chin, underneath her hairline where her eyes are, as well as some of the areas where the green is, because that was meant to represent the shadows, I go in and enforce that a little bit more with those line details, and I'm really happy with how that worked out. It actually surprised me as much as it did how much I enjoyed doing this Beyond the Box video too. Like I said in the last video, these aren't usually my go-to colours, we'll say, and to have just a combination of those colours and that liner pen, it is pretty scary. And not every month I'm going to enjoy what comes in any of the mystery boxes, sometimes that is down to personal preference. I do like paint markers though, and I was determined to make these work and create a piece that I'd be happy with. And I think I'm going to start playing with my paint markers in general a little bit more, so if you want me to do more videos using like the Poscas or some more of these Pintor pens, let me know and I'll be happy to share what I come out with. Anyway, as you can see, adding all of those cross-hatching details in there has really added a good bit of drama, a bit of action to the pose, and it's just reinforced the dynamic pose that I picked for her too. I did feel that something was missing a little bit on her body, so I just added a little bit of shadow there with the green pen, but I decided not to use the cross-hatching on there. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed the second instalment of the June Scrawlrbox. Please let me know down below. Of course, I want to say a massive thank you for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. And speaking of videos, there should be some more on screen right now, along with the subscribe button, so why not at least click one of the 3 that are up there now. And in the meantime, I'll see you lovely lot soon. Bye!